I do apologise for my appearance, guys. I just got out of bed. I had to bring you this video as soon as humanly possible because, as we know, this is one of the greatest speakers of all time. How do I know that? It's because I keep saying on YouTube, every other video says, the best speaker I've ever heard. And when I go through their video, they're all almost sounding exactly the same. What is it about this speaker that has caught the imagination of the entire universe? Well, it's got spatial audio.
Spatial audio!
What does that mean?
Spatial audio.
At its simplest, it means it's got 3D audio, and it sounds like things are coming from behind you.
Do not come.
I'm gonna come.
And all around, oh, hang on a second. It's a stereo speaker, and the processing, it upmixes to its 5 drivers. Woofer, woofer, tweeter, tweeter. Sky driver, they call it. It's an upward firing driver. And this is the breakthrough in technology. They've added another driver. I've seen some people call it a center channel driver, which it isn't. The tweeters and the top driver work in unison, and the processing is doing its thing. Interestingly, it now comes in a blue and green, so you can get at least 3 colors at this point. And do you know what they've sent me? They've sent me this one. Something nice about it, however, is it's got kind of waveguides where the woofers and the tweeters both sit. And it's pushing the sound kind of a little bit outwards and upwards. It's separating the left and right from each other. You're getting clear space between them. But of course, that's not how the traditional stereo works. But this is how it works when they're trying to make it sound immersive and a very open sound. And of course, never mind the processing, the fact that they're sending the woofers out to the sides and they're sending something up to the sky, and the tweeters are right on the side, like the Motion Plus. That works to open up the sound. But, you know, this upmixing, this spatial so-called audio, which is kind of an overall term that's all things to all people, people are thinking this is doing things it's not doing. And partly because this is the way they market this is, it's a replacement soundbar, and almost on the par with Atmos. And I've seen people saying that, oh, great, get on Spotify and do your Atmos audio and all this. Does this play Atmos? No. What it does, it takes a traditional stereo signal and it upmixes it, like your pseudo surround on your soundbars, to open up the sound. And by the very definition of doing that, it's no longer as true to the original as it would have been. It's trying to make your ears think sound is coming from places it's not coming. And it does that by mimicking certain reflections you'd get in a normal room. And your ears tell you when it's come from there, it's come from there. It's trying to do that in a little speaker. Yes, it opens up. Yes, it's airy. But come on, there's so much misinformation about this speaker out there. This doesn't play Atmos. This upmixes stereo. It decodes nothing. You can't, if you want to use this as a soundbar, it doesn't decode any of the surround sound formats. And it's 200 quid. And that's the point of this video. It's 200 quid. $200, is it? 200 quid? Yeah, it's like 190 quid. Oh, where's the bargain now? So, I'm saying this is well overhyped and a lot of misinformation, but is it a nice sounding speaker? Yes. But for me, it's all about at what level. It's a nice sounding speaker for $5. I can't listen to this for a long period of time because it's too sparkly, it's too thin as you push the volumes, and there's too much not right. It's doing pseudo surround. That's basically what it's doing from stereo. It's upmixing it to make it so it's going to sound less accurate, and it's going to sound, yes, that's really nice, it's really pleasant, it's really different from other speakers out there when you first hear it. And then after 10 minutes, you're going through your tracks, and I'm going back to the Motion Booms and the stuff, and the Tribute Stormblocks basses and that. There is an issue here with the bass. When you've got bass up and you've got bass-heavy tracks, it's completely out of control and completely distorted. For some people, it might just sound punchy. But for me, who likes a boosted bass, mids and deeper bass rather than upper bass, however, I can handle a boosted bass, not a boomy bass, but a boosted bass, a bass heavy, but it needs to be musical, and it just sounds horrible. Therefore, when I listen to this speaker, I use a custom EQ where I'm dropping mids and highs relative to bass. I'm using it with the bass up, off, And so I'm having to work in a bass-heavy sound without pushing it. And you do that by dropping the mids and the highs. So relatively, we've now got more in the deeper bass. It is nice how it uses waveguides. I'm saying waveguides. It's, you know, it's manipulating the sound waves. Maybe not a traditional sound wave. It's not doing it to make the tweeter and the woofer gel, you know, and eliminate the problem of beaming and stuff like that. It's doing it to help with the spatial audio. And that's the thing about this. Another thing about this speaker is the stereo tuning. What do I call stereo? Because I've still got 5 speakers. By the way, that upward driver works even in stereo mode, not just spatial mode. And in stereo mode, it's very, very dull and boring. I don't believe anyone's deliberately done that because they think it sounds brilliant. In my opinion, could I be wrong? Have I ever been wrong? Absolutely. Am I entitled to give my opinion? That's the point of me being here. Clue is, this is me talking. I'm in civilian gear. It doesn't even say Alanos Reviews. I know it says it there, but the point is, it's kind of like having a day off because I haven't got me traditional T-shirt on. But in my opinion, that's deliberately tuned. So when you push the spatial audio button, it sounds in an A/B so much better in spatial audio simply because it's got more highs. It's very rolled off in stereo mode, even though it's got the extra driver to play with. Yes, it's a nice build, but when I first saw this, I thought it's like a 1990s, 1980s, whatever. This is like a kitchen radio with a DAB radio missing. And someone else came on in the comments and said that. That's exactly what it looks like to me. It's not a great groundbreaking design. It's just different from what we expect from these, like the likes of Tribute and Soundcore, which we think of as good value, cheaper speakers. That's a proper, solid speaker. So I'm trying to give you an overview where I am with the speaker. I think it's nice, but I'm absolutely stunned by the hype. But the point of this video is I'm trying to demonstrate the problem with this speaker. Put your phone over there in case, okay, something embarrassing comes up. Okay, I did. The clue is it's over there. It's 200 quid. The price is for a Motion Plus, 70 quid, $120 I think at the moment, but let's say 70 quid in the UK, 190. So two of those, two Motion Pluses are still substantially cheaper than a single X600. And the same again, 75 quid today for Motion Boom, 150 quid, substantially cheaper than a single X600. So where is the value in this speaker? When you could buy 2 Motion Booms, you know, former pound for pound world champion, and another former pound for pound world champion, the Motion Plus, when you can actually have 2 of them and a load of money, enough for a Burger King and a good night out, quite honestly, against a single X600. And the whole point of this speaker is spatial audio. We won't even talk about stereo, because clearly it's not tuned for the stereo mode. It's tuned for making it sound nice in spatial audio. And again, just to say, does spatial audio sound really nice? Yes, but for me, about 10 minutes, and then you hear all the problems of it, as I always get with the forced pseudo surround. I call pseudo surround. Do you know why? Because that's what they called it in the 1980s. But anyway, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play 2 Motion Pluses in stereo against spatial audio in default mode with bass up button on, so you can hear exactly how much bass you're getting extra with that bass up on, and then the same track in spatial audio, but in custom EQ spatial audio mode, the bass up off, because it's bass up is fine if they are not particularly bass heavy tracks. They can go deep into the bass, and these tracks are, I like to kind of have flattish tracks that go deep into bass, but they're not boosted in the bass. If you're playing some seriously heavy tracks with some seriously heavy bass, boosted bass, you know, I mean, you know, with a big peak in the bass against the mids and highs, it's completely out of control, completely distorted. Okay, how many minutes of waffling? Probably about 2 hours. And here we go with the first audio clip.
I wanna flow down, hands on my hips, got my head spin around. Got you loving on my brain, I'm a little upset. Can't stop now, no, we're not done yet. Move like this, I move like that. If you give a little, then you give it right back. Come lay it on your dick till we say goodbye. Do it up like we only got one night. Do it
tuning of these speakers in default mode is very similar. If you stick the bass up button on the Motion X600, it goes deeper in the bass. But the overall sound is not that different. And the main difference may be that you hear a little bit deeper in the bass on the Motion X600. I said, I think this is the upgrade to the Motion Plus, but there's a problem. You can buy 2 Motion Pluses and have loads of money in your pocket rather than buying X600. In default mode, although they are similarly tuned, and this has a slightly deeper bass, it's certainly, it's a tighter, more focused sound with 2 Motion Pluses, and it's more immersive because the stereo's wide, they're properly separated. And then you can hear the limits of what the speaker can do. It doesn't make it sound like that you've got 2 speakers 20 feet apart. Sounds like a speaker that size, but a little bit bigger. It's like a glow of sound around it, and that's what is really pleasant about it. But I'll tell you what it does have. It has like an 8 to 9 kilohertz peak, smack bang in your sibilance area. And again, that's going to mean genre and track matching. If you've got a track that's, it's got some vocals in that area, that can sound pretty harsh. If you're playing tracks that are already rolled off at that point, or maybe just instrumental, it's going to sound pretty nice and clearer. Default mode on the Motion Plus is pretty dull, and it's a little bit rolled off in highs. Therefore, I would say it's probably a win here for the X600, even though the width of 2 Motion Pluses is showing up the limits of the X600. As long as you're not getting into trouble with the tracks you're playing with that bass app on, where for me, on my speaker, it sounds horrible if it's pushed too far. But on these tracks, it's fine. These tracks are deep, but they are not boosted in the bass. If you go to custom, though, it's different. Once you've evened out the highs using custom for the Motion Plus, and I've used a tame EQ, so I've not pushed the bass as much as I would do normally. I've kept it in check. Probably for most people, that's a more all-round listen with that EQ for the Motion Pluses. And they are very EQable, and that's the difference. For me, this is not an EQable speaker. You can't do much. You can't boost the bass at all. It's out of control. You have to bring down the mids and the highs just to bring out that bass. So that for me, although we've still got the multi-band EQ, it's not EQable. There's not a lot you can do other than try and fill in the bass, which is what I've done there. And for me now, I prefer 2 Motion Pluses. Yes, you've got to mess about with 2 speakers, but hey, once you've actually got them in wireless mode, TWS, they will stay locked in that mode. You turn them both on, they're both locked, and you turn the master off, they both turn off. It's pretty much hassle-free. You can't say that with all speakers, but these speakers do work well in TWS, so you don't have to keep reconnecting them. So we still have that 8 to 9 kilohertz boost. It does, even in custom EQ, in those tame EQs, have more bass. But the lack of the immersion factor of having 2 of these for a similarly tuned sound, but more focused and more accurate than the spatial audio of the X600 makes, for me, a win for 2 Motion Pluses. And then we come to the 2 Motion Booms. They go boom, 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 boom. And do you know, that's why they called it the Motion Boom. It came in like a wrecking ball and rocked our world. A speaker that has problem doing that. I'm seeing people saying this is doing lovely deep bass. Trust me, this does not do deep bass if you know your bass. This does mid and upper bass. This does not do deep bass. And do you know how I know? Well, have a listen against 2 Motion Booms.
Get another night with you. Is there a way to make it right? So I can have you by my side. I hope we got it. Cause I think it could be special if we could meet again. I would let you tear down my walls. Maybe you didn't mean a thing. You were just a company in a time where I needed it. But I keep thinking about you. Oh, I keep thinking about you.
First of all, we've got to say that, and I said this in my first video out the X600, in my opinion, the people who buy this speaker are the people buying Motion Pluses. That it's not the people buying the Motion Booms, the proper deep bass heavy speakers. It doesn't do deep bass, no matter what anyone tries to tell you. Trust me on this one. We've heard them in default, and you can hear I mean, that was a take it or leave it, wasn't it, in default? Against two Motion Booms, it's just like, it's not on another planet, it's on another universe.
Yep.
It's so much better. It just makes this sound thin and brittle. It's really showing up the limits of the Motion X600. It's putting into perspective what some of these other people are hyping, about on this speaker and talking absolute nonsense, in my honest personal opinion. Switch them to custom mode when we can eke out even more. And by the way, I'm playing what I call in my lean, mean rock EQ. It's not even the deep bass EQ. You can push that deep bass even more. It's a nice punchy, leaner EQ that I was using there. Again, a fairer match against the lean sounding, but sparkly Motion X600. Let's turn it back on. But you switch them to custom EQ where you can do even more, and that's what I talk about being EQable. This is not EQable. There's not a lot you can do, unless you don't care about sibilance and stuff like that, and how the bass actually sounds, if it's distorted or not. Two Motion Booms and custom EQ. It's just, I mean, if that was your choice, I mean, for me, you just wouldn't pick it up. It sounds thin and brittle and a bit nasty against two Motion Booms. In my opinion, I'm not knocking Soundcore. Do you know why? Because they make all these speakers. I'm just saying where the value is, and you get that all the time. What's the best speaker? I don't know. It depends on your taste and the genres you listen to, and where you're playing it, and the inside, outside, what kind of them. I can tell you the best value. I can tell you what definitely offers value. Two of these, 50 quid left in your pocket instead of buying that. It's not rocket science, is it? It's not brain surgery to work out where the value is here. So, you want to know, and I already knew, what happens when you play two of those and two of those against that? You realise the hype on this is absolutely ridiculous. Is it a terrible speaker? No. Is it a nice speaker? Yes. It's not for serious listening. This is for people. This is a kitchen radio speaker. It doesn't make it sound bad, but this is for people who just want, oh, that sounds nice. Oh, yes, that's pleasant. But there's no meat in the track. You're losing a lot in the body. It's not an accurate sound. It's all about trying to do, as you can see by the way it's been made with so-called waveguides, I call them waveguides, to push the sound out and to push it forward. That's how they're doing a lot of the spatial trickery. So what are the specs? What are the real differences between these? Well, we did that in the first video, didn't you? I'll just do a quick overview. You know when they're made. I'm not going to do that anymore. We talked about the prices. What I will say is that's a proper battery. When we talk about the Onyx Studio series, going from like a 9 watt-hour battery to 11 watt-hour battery on a bass-heavy speaker like that, it's just crazy. And when I tell you this has which is not bass-heavy, when it's punchy, it's not bass-heavy, 46.1 watt-hour battery. That's bloody brilliant. That's a proper battery. Compares to the 37 watt-hours on the Motion Boom and the 24 watt-hours of the Motion Plus. Just know, the more bass-heavy a speaker is, the less battery life you are going to get from it. I would say you're certainly going to get more battery life out of that than the Motion Boom, if that's a big deal to you. You know, this is, for the first time ever, probably, I can say each of these has a different codec. SBC, why is everything SBC? 500 quid for Boombox 3, SBC. We've got LDAC. So it can do 990 kilobits per second. Joy. If you're up close and you're getting the best connection. But it could well drop from that. And just remember, you're going to have to initialize that. You have to make sure you've set your phone or your device, or whatever, to use LDAC. And then you can get the night, because this is a high res. In fact, I'm going to get to that in a minute. I'm not going to talk about that. We've got LDAC, well, not LDAC. We've got aptX on the Motion Plus at 352. It will top out kilobits per second, and 328 because that's SBC. Bluetooth 5 Motion Boom, Bluetooth 5.3 X600, and Bluetooth 5 Motion Plus. They all do stereo pairing. They all have a USB-C connection. Only the Motion Boom does not have an auxiliary input. Only the Motion Boom can be used as a power bank. And it's a decent sized battery. That's not something to be sniffed at. Can all be used to make phone calls. Ha ha ha, what do they call the watts? It's become absolutely meaningless, and they'll just fake it however they want. But I'll tell you what the headline specs are. 50 watts for the X600. 30 watts for both the Motion Plus and the Motion Boom. The Motion X600 will charge a little bit faster at 15 watts versus the others at 10 watts. They're all IPX7. They will all float, but none of them will float with the drivers up. I don't know what size the drivers are. I'm going to have to take this grill off at some point, but it's a bit of a hassle because everything else has to come off. But I don't know what size the drivers are, other than say we've got tweeter, tweeter, woofer, woofer, upward firing, tweeter, tweeter, woofer, 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 woofer. Just to say, I did end up taking the grill off. I have measured the drivers. The X600 has two 60mm woofers, two 27mm tweeters, one passive radiator in the rear. But hold on a second, the Motion Boom has titanium drivers, while the Motion Plus has neodymium magnets. Both the X600 and the Motion Plus on the auxiliary have zero lag. In terms of Bluetooth lag, the Motion Plus, for me, 33 milliseconds is absolutely blooming fantastic streaming YouTube. 83 milliseconds, that's just borderline, yep, okay, for the X600. But 160 milliseconds is very, very poor in terms of latency for me streaming on YouTube. All made by Soundcore, all have the app with multi-band EQ. It's really, really good, class leading, we should say. But it's not a very EQable speaker but it's going to depend on your ears. It's my opinion. I'm just giving you my opinion. Now, what's kind of winding me up at the moment, if I scroll through YouTube looking at reviews of the X600, what I am noticing in the title of quite a few reviews is this is the best speaker I've ever heard. The best portable speaker I've ever heard, Soundcore Motion X600. Jason T. Lewis, see on the making, Soundcore Motion X600, the best Bluetooth speaker I've ever heard. Literally, Matt Gonzalez, this might be the best speaker I've ever heard. The best BT Bluetooth speaker ever, Soundcore Motion X600. Did you see how similar these titles are? And then I come to my man, Danny Rambles. Why am I picking him out? Well, because his title was, "This is the best Bluetooth speaker I have ever heard, no joke, Soundcore Motion X600." So I did have to ask, because I'm scratching my head, what are you comparing that to? That's the best speaker. First of all, I think it's all about price, but he's saying off the top of his head, X600. Look, I'm not here to knock other reviewers, but I have to say, of all the reviews, his one was the most advert-like I've seen. It just basically was reeling off all the specs of the speaker. It took a lot of rubbish, to be quite honest. And I just asked a very reasonable question. I wasn't trying to knock him or anything. I honestly was asking him, "Sorry, but this is the best speaker you ever heard. What are you comparing it to?" Seemed like a reasonable question. And I would give a reasonable answer if you came on my channel. And if I've said that and you said, "Well, what's it better than?" I would tell you, and I do openly tell you. And he didn't mention in the video, and he didn't mention, but then he says, "Read again." Well, read what again? So I said, I read it again. What am I missing? I don't know. It just makes so many claims. There's something about this speaker that, for me, doesn't feel right in what I'm seeing on YouTube. I'm not accusing anybody of anything other than saying I thought first of all, that was a silly reply, and I also thought it was a ridiculous video, quite honestly. It was a complete advert talking a load of nonsense. It said, at first glance, it looks like just another good-looking Bluetooth speaker. But Soundcore were able to recreate the 3D headphone experience in Bluetooth. It's not a 3D headphone experience. It's just not. It's you heard against two of these. Does it sound wider? No. Does it sound like it's coming from behind you? No. In person, it does not sound like it. It just sounds a bit bigger than the speaker itself. I said it's got high res. There's a lot of misunderstanding, it seems, about high res audio. So they talk about it going up to 40 kilohertz. He says you will really hear the difference. I think he says that you can really hear the instrument. No, you won't. You won't hear anything at 40 kilohertz. That's just about the certification through the auxiliary input. It has to be able to play up to 40 kilohertz. Very little is recorded above 20 kilohertz. You certainly won't hear anything over 20 kilohertz. You may make the argument into up to maybe 25, 26. Some of those harmonics just give something to the atmosphere. He said it guarantees wireless lossless audio. Again, there's a misunderstanding. Obviously, it's about matching bit rate. So at its top whack, 990 kilobits per second. First of all, LDAC is not lossless. But in terms of guaranteeing it's lossless, doesn't mean to say all your audio is now lossless. When they talk about that, they're talking about CD quality. It will certainly play CD quality losslessly because it can do it bit for bit. But it will, to get that high-res wireless certification, that's about being able to decode and play 24-bit, 96 kilohertz tracks, high-res audio. Doesn't mean to say it will do it losslessly, but it will be able to play it and decode it. So LDAC is not lossless. There is compression. The lossless refers to up to CD quality. I did laugh a bit when he said first he said he can't play it at maximum volume. It's a very, very loud speaker and he's got neighbours. Well, it's not. This is not a boombox. So that kind of rang bells with me, but it may be very, very thin walls and it may be true. And then he says, but I'm going to record it in very high quality so you can hear it. And he records it with a He's recording spatial audio with a shotgun mic. If you don't know, his shotgun has very narrow pickup, and that's the whole point. It's the worst thing you want to use for recording these speakers anyway, and certainly if you're trying to recreate spatial audio, there's literally no separation. That's the whole point of a shotgun microphone. He said, I like to use the bass up button as I like bass heavy music, and Soundcore managed to deliver this without any distortion whatsoever. Well, okay, now, so we're getting to the nitty gritty now. So you have no basis to say that. All these speakers distort. They all have harmonic distortion. What are you basing on? Let's see your measurements. Of course it distorts. And, if you're not playing at maximum volume, you're getting away with saying that. So it may all be innocent and misunderstanding. I just want to put that straight. Of course it distorts. Mine distorts heavily. He says you get 12 hours battery life, so even after a good listen, you'll still have battery life left over. Does he understand? 12-hour battery life is their testing at mixed volume. You play that at maximum volume, you certainly won't get 12 hours. Playing bass heavy tracks, it's got a good battery, but just to say 12 hours as though you can play that at maximum, that's not right. They're not claiming a maximum volume, that's mixed volume. I think he's talking about playing spatial audio from Spotify. This up mixes stereo. This will not decode and play spatial audio. If you fire spatial audio, it will come in as stereo and then it'll be up mixed. So again, as I'm saying, just something doesn't sit right with me with what I'm seeing across the internet. It's a very nice speaker, but it's kind of frustrating me. The misinformation seems to be based on what Soundcore are putting out and trying to say atmos-like and all this. And the fact that too many people, for my liking, are putting in the title the best speaker they've ever heard. I asked a couple of others to clarify. One says, well, go back over my 10 years of videos or something. None of them can actually tell me what they are. One channel, the channel who compared this to the JBL, took a spatial audio 5-driver speaker, 200 quid, compared it to a mono speaker. The JBL charged 5, half the size, cheaper. Why would you do that? I think I know why, but anyway. Enough said. It just got to me today a little bit, that. Do Soundcore make great speakers? Absolutely. I would rather have 2 of those or 2 of those than that. Is this a nice sounding speaker? Yes. Is this for audiophiles? Well, it shouldn't be, but some so-called audiophiles seem to be saying it's fantastic. It doesn't do deep bass. It doesn't have a balanced sound. It doesn't have a flat frequency response. It's all about, it sounds a bit wishy-washy, a bit bigger than the speaker itself, and it's a pleasant sound. I can see that being nice for background music and why casual listeners will like that. If you like bass-heavy tracks, you won't like it. But anyway, okay. I came on for a bit of a rant there. Just the end of a funny old day, funny old time with this speaker, and sod it, say it. I'm just giving my honest opinion. I could well be wrong on every single point. I don't think I'm wrong. You can come in and tell me in the comments. If you come in the comments and say to me, well, you said the Trivix Stormbox Blast is your pound for pound speaker. I didn't say it was the best ever, but supposing I said it was best ever and you came on and you asked me, is it the best ever speaker? Do you know what I'd say? Well, these are the ones I'm comparing it to, and this is the reason why I think it's better. I wouldn't say, well, go over all my past videos or read again. Anyway, enough said. Hope to see you in another video. I hope I get to do more videos. I hope to get more speakers. It's weird, I'm getting less speakers now than I was getting when I first started the channel. I think I know why that is, and that's a problem. And that's maybe one of the reasons why I just said what I said, because it is frustrating when you want to do honest, straightforward reviews and don't toe the line in scripts or links and stuff like that they want you to do. And it means I've got to buy any speaker I listen to now. Not everyone. I just did the Bogassing M5, didn't I? They happily sent me. I don't know if they're happy, because when I said I put the video up, and it never replied. But anyway, I'm just doing an honest opinion, and it's very, very hard on YouTube. It's very frustrating, actually, to see what's going on. I've never seen it that bad on this speaker that's happening now with that speaker. That's why I kind of look at that and go, ugh. It seems to be a new level of overhyping. It's just my opinion. I'm not trying to slander, libel, or anything like that. But if I can't give my honest opinion, there's no point in me sitting down. Thanks for watching. Maybe we'll do it again another day.
Are we there yet? Are we there yet? Are we there yet? You made us!
You boom.
Idiot!
It comes from China.
My speaker's got deep bass, balanced mids, and a bright high.
Yes, mine sounds exactly the same.